So it looks like Diddy's attempts to be released from jail will not end. He's asking a judge to immediately release him ahead of sentencing. Not only that, it looks as if President Donald Trump is seriously considering pardoning Diddy.
Here we go now.
Welcome back to the Kempire channel, your #1 source for pop culture news and music, entertainment, reality TV, and so much more. As always, be sure to like this video, subscribe to the channel, and hit that notification bell so you never miss out on breaking news when we go live or when we upload. So you may have seen that Diddy had posted on his social media these looking eye emojis randomly a few days ago. And now we have the news that his legal team have filed a motion for the judge to release him from jail while he awaits sentencing that's set for October 3rd. You may have also seen that Donald Trump, several weeks ago, said that he has not been reached out in regards to possibly pardoning Diddy, but he said if he knew more, he would look into it. So it was not off the table. Now, according to Deadline, Donald Trump is seriously considering pardoning him. So this whole idea of him getting him out of jail now before his sentencing might not even be necessary. But let's get into what the report is saying. So according to The Hollywood Reporter, they said Sean Diddy Combs' legal team have filed a motion requesting that the rap mogul be released on bond from the Brooklyn lockup, where he has been jailed since September. Almost a year he's been there, claiming that his ongoing detention after beating the bulk of charges in his federal trial is unwarranted. In the motion filed on Tuesday to the judge, Aaron Subramanian, who presided over Combs' high-profile federal trial, where earlier this month he was found not guilty of racketeering and trafficking, but guilty on 2 counts of transportation to engage in prostitution. The attorneys emphasize the unique nature of Combs' situation and argue that holding him until sentencing at the Metropolitan Detention Center in Brooklyn is, quote, inconsistent with Justice Department policy. So what they're saying is that anyone else in this particular situation that was convicted on similar charges would be released until their sentencing. But you may recall, the last time that we reported on Diddy was the day of the trial, where they had a hearing where the judge wanted to consider whether or not he would release him on bail until his sentencing. The judge during that time said no. They said, what we found out in this trial that you've admitted to was domestic violence. And domestic violence is violence. And he still considers Diddy a threat to society. Based on everything that we learned in this trial, I know we can debate whether or not it was racketeering or trafficking. What we can't debate is that Diddy is a horrible human being. Oh, but let me be careful, because Donald Trump might release him on a pardon. Honestly believe that might happen. A lot of us have been speculating that since it was even thrown out there. But before we get to that, let's continue. They said that there are exceptional circumstances warranting a departure from the mandatory detention and ensuring that Sean Combs is released, the attorneys wrote in a 12-page legal motion. And you guys will let me know. Hit me up in the comments if you want me to go through the legal motion so we can actually, sometimes there are some little nuggets in there that are worth talking about. They said the motion argues that Combs' prosecution and continued incarceration are unique in the history of the Mann Act, the federal law that prohibits the interstate or foreign transportation of individuals to engage in prostitution. At his trial, prosecutors argued that Combs used his staff, power, and influence to coerce 2 girlfriends into participating in, quote, freak-offs. Coordinated drug-fueled sex marathons with hired male S-workers, which the rapper would watch and record while pleasuring himself. The jury ultimately did not buy that Combs had violated the RICO statute or engaged in trafficking, but he was found guilty on the 2 lesser counts related to the Mann Act. His attorney argued for his immediate release after the verdict was read. Remember, when the verdict was read, he turned to his family reportedly and says, "I'm coming home, baby." And I'm thinking he looked at his mother and said that.
Can y'all believe this shit? Can y'all believe this?
But the judge opted to send Combs back to the Brooklyn jail until the October 3rd sentencing hearing. Taking this set of circumstances, the lawyers point out in the motion that, quote, there has literally never been a case like this one, wherein a person remains jailed for paying for consensual sex involving a long-term adult partner. Sean Combs should not be in jail for this conduct. In fact, he may be the only person currently in the United States jail for being any sort of John, and certainly the only person in jail for hiring adult male S workers for him and his girlfriend. And when he did not even have sex with the male S worker himself, they wrote. I mean, one thing I have to say about Diddy, he is paying millions of dollars for his legal team, but it's been money well spent. The motion also argues that the Mann Act typically applies to those seeking commercial gain through interstate transportation involving S workers. Citing a 72-year-old attorney's manual, the legal team notes that, as a general rule, prosecution should not be instituted in the so-called non-commercial cases. Judge Sumaranian noted Combs' history of violence, the widely seen CCTV footage of Combs brutalizing his girlfriend Cassie Ventura in a Los Angeles hotel was shown over a dozen times during his trial, in his decision to deny bail. In the letter, his attorneys argued that Combs poses no future danger, noting that before he was arrested, he had enrolled in a domestic violence program. Was this before? This was probably after, when he assaulted his girlfriend, Jane Doe, that testified. Remember, that was the most recent assault. Combs' attorney seeks his release on a $50 million bond, which sounds familiar because that's what they've offered multiple times in these bail hearings, and state that he would remain a Miami resident and would only travel for purposes related to his legal case. He would be released under the supervision of the U.S. Pretrial Services Agency and would surrender his passport. Combs faces a possible sentence up to 20 years in prison for 2 counts of transportation to engage in prostitution. Prosecutors have indicated they will seek a potential sentence of 51 to 63 months. The defense has proposed a range of 21 to 27 months. So a lot of people were speculating, and I remember the last time I spoke with Kristen in regards to this, the judge still has free reign to sentence Diddy to what he believes Diddy deserves. We shall see if he will do that. I think regardless, I think maybe after the sentencing, maybe after October, we could see a pardon. So let's talk about that. Atlanta, buckle up. The Kempire After Dark, the villain era, is coming to your city in less than a week at City Winery. It's a night of hot topics, including talking about Diddy, Real Housewives, and so much more. It's also where we spill tea that we will never spill outside those doors. Then we're coming to DC August 22nd. Then we're back in New York City on September 12th. If you want to join us, be sure to get your tickets today. Meet and greets are available for all the shows, but the New York City show has a live stream option exclusively for that show. So no matter where you are in the world, you'll be able to be a part of the Kempire After Dark, the Villain Era live experience. Get your tickets today. More information on the Kempire After Dark experience will be available in the description. See you soon. Deadline came out yesterday and reported this. I meant to drop this video a lot earlier, but I thought this was interesting that Deadline's reporting that Donald Trump is seriously considering pardoning Diddy. And you may, because we haven't really talked about the Epstein files or anything like that, but I still stay very much aware, even though I don't report on every single story, I still stay aware of what's going on in our government, in our politics. And the Epstein files is one of the things that are happening right now when it comes to Donald Trump that is actually hurting him with his base. So some people speculate this whole narrative of him pardoning Diddy is one of the ways for him to distract. One of the many ways to distract. So Deadline, in their exclusive, says that, and please understand, I told you guys this before, but if you're new here, media, a lot of media, this is why the rise of independent media is so important, because a lot of what myself and other independent freelance media outlets, not journalists, never going to be claimed, I don't care what everyone else wants to claim, but a lot of us are not bought and paid, a lot, I'm not going to say all, are not bought and paid by a bigger media outlet or celebrities and things like that, okay? So a lot of these exclusives that you see with these big media outlets, I'm not saying that's what's happening with Deadline, but please understand, Deadline's getting this information intentionally. They may know it, they may not know it, but this information is being put out there intentionally because now that's the story. But I always remind you, we could do two things at the same time. We can focus on the fact that they're trying to cover up the Epstein files. We can also talk about Donald Trump deciding whether or not, seriously considering if he's going to pardon Diddy. I believe he will pardon Diddy if Diddy is willing to give him what he wants. And it could be allegedly money. It could be, oh, I need you to come out and talk about how good of a guy I am. Because he talked about that. The last time Diddy came up a few weeks ago when it comes to Donald Trump, he did talk about how Diddy did not support him when he got into politics. However, if you look at throughout the years, Diddy and Donald Trump were very friendly at all kinds of parties together, very much like how Donald Trump was at a lot of parties and in pictures with his good friend, allegedly, Jeffrey Epstein. According to Deadline, they said Donald Trump is heavily weighing giving Sean Diddy Combs a full presidential pardon ahead of the convicted Bad Boy Records founder's sentencing later this year. Nearly 2 months after Donald Trump publicly entertained the notion of a Diddy pardon in an Oval Office gaggle, a comprehensive get-out-of-jail card for Combs is being seriously considered, an administration source tells Deadline. An administration source tells Deadline. That's intentional. I don't know if they're trying to distract, but that's intentional. Fishing this story to Deadline. They say, additionally, as several associates of a much accused and currently incarcerated All About the Benjamins performer have been pitching the White House, other insiders confirm the topic has leveled up from just another Trump weave to an actionable event since Combs was found partially guilty in his New York City trafficking trial earlier this month. Of course, as a number of parties attest, this being the roller coaster of the Trump world, any decision on a Combs pardon is in flux until POTUS actually puts his signature on paper. Repeatedly denied a $50 million bond and release from the Brooklyn's Metropolitan Detention Center since his arrest last September, Combs could end up spending 2 to 3 years in a federal prison upon his sentencing on October 3rd by Judge Aaron Subramanian. Any sentence certainly would include time already served by Combs. Even with that, and the Fed seeking the maximum under sentencing guidelines, so that's not the full 20 years, they're talking about sentencing guidelines. An appeal is widely expected to be launched by the 10-attorney deep defense almost immediately after sentencing occurs. It might not even get there. And please understand, and I'm not saying that this is fact, please understand, I would not be shocked that Diddy lawyers or sources have been in contact with the White House, and that's why we're getting this story now, that they're already trying to negotiate some sort of pardon. I don't even know if it will even get to appeal. He's already been convicted. They probably will wait till the sentencing to either pardon him. I believe that is in the future. They're trying to figure out what exactly will this administration get, allegedly, because, of course, that would be illegal. Contacted by Deadline, Combs' defense team, led by Mark Agnifilo and Tenny Garagos, had, quote, no comment on any pardon talk for their client. While a number of individuals close to Combs, both personally and professionally, have been active in seeking White House recourse for the Grammy winner, the defense team itself has had no significant participation in the process, I hear. And again, I don't know if they technically, legally could be involved in that process. Upon on 1600 Pennsylvania Avenue, the reply was that the White House will not comment on the existence or non-existence of any clemency requests, according to the administration official. They need to just ask Donald Trump himself, because you know he can't hold water. With a damning verdict for the U.S. Attorney's Office for the Southern District of New York delivered by a federal jury July 2nd after an 8-week trafficking trial, Combs escaped the most severe of the criminal charges he was facing, as you may recall. Even before the mixed verdict came in, Trump exclaimed on May 30th that when it came to a Diddy pardon, he would, quote, would certainly look at the facts, because you know that's what he does, if I think somebody was mistreated, whether they like me or don't like me. Once big on Trump, Combs became quite critical of him during the Republicans' first term and endorsed Joe Biden in 2020. Before that, Combs and Trump had known each other for decades, with the former bluntly calling the latter a good friend in 2012. Soon after hitting stardom, the ostentatious Combs was a regular on the 1990s and 2000s Manhattan party and charity circuit and often came into contact with Trump, who moved in similar circles. And here's the thing, for those that talk about, oh, they've had pictures with Donald Trump over there. Donald Trump was a Democrat at one particular point, but also Donald Trump was a person about town. So there were a lot of people in hip hop that have photos with Donald Trump. So Deadline continues. It said the Oval Office consideration of a Combs pardon has grown in recent days. I'm told by multiple sources. The increased interest also comes as the distraction politics advocating POTUS faces an uprising by his MAGA base over the continued reluctance on part of the Department of Justice to make public promised files on the now dead S-offender and former Trump pal, Jeffrey Epstein. Trump has even turned on enduring ally Rupert Murdoch with a $10 billion lawsuit after the Fox News owner's Wall Street Journal published a piece July 18th on the president and Epstein friendship. The well-connected millionaire was indicted in a 2019 on trafficking charges and more involving underage women. Underage girls. I don't know why they still write that as a term, underage women. No, underage girls. As a point of contention for some who disbelieve the official unaliving conclusion, Epstein died suddenly in custody in New York before his trial could even begin. So you could see just from this video alone, we were able to talk about Donald Trump, the Epstein of it all, and Diddy. See how we can do both and not be distracted? Guys, as always, this is not something that we normally talk about, but we have been covering the Diddy trial since it began. And if you missed it, and maybe you just want an update, you want summaries on what went down during that 30+ day trial, be sure to check that out here on the Kempire channel. You can also hear it on the Kempire podcast. Guys, let's continue this conversation in the comment section. Don't forget to like this video, subscribe to the channel, and hit that notification bell so you never miss out on breaking news when we go live or when we upload. Thanks for watching.
Here we go now.